Yeah, I saw that you actually like if we trust your LinkedIn, then I think you worked in Salesforce for almost 12 years now, which is crazy. What are the biggest changes? Because 12 years ago, I think I was still playing in the playground in my like around my house instead of doing Salesforce. So tell me about those times 12 years ago. What is the most change basically in Salesforce those 12 years?
So that's a good question. So one of the main things as far as the interface, the UI UX experience, we've gone from classic to lightning. That's been a major change. When I first started with Salesforce, it was the old classic uh, user interface. It's kind of clunky, pretty old. It's like the year 2005 called and wants its user interface back. Another thing as well too is Salesforce is a lot more complicated, a lot more deep, a lot more vast than it was 12 years ago.
What does it mean? Like complicated to implement, to learn, to use?
All of the above, in my opinion. Um,
Okay.
well, like for example, there's new clouds out there. There's Data
Hmm.
Cloud now that we have. The beginnings of AI and Agent Force as well too. Um, there's other clouds like Health Cloud, Financial Services Cloud, if I remember it's called. I
NFT
do.
cloud.
What's that?
NFT cloud.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's
Which
addition.
no one has any idea about the NFT cloud. Yeah, sorry, go on. Go on.
Yeah, there's different ways for as far as from a technical standpoint, different ways to integrate as well too from just beyond an API. A REST or SOAP interface, so to speak. Uh, there's more. What's the word I'm looking for? Uh, uh, I forgot the word all of a sudden. But I'm sorry. Event-driven architecture, which
Okay.
is more probably a better design today to be able to do. It
Hmm.
just there's a lot differences between now and back then. I mean, if I could come up with a list and it'd be a lot. So
Crazy, crazy.
and,
Okay.
and, and
So
that's
it's
one thing too. One of the things, Igor, that I really enjoy about Salesforce, and I can get into a little bit about how I got into the whole platform, because I have about 25 years of experience in tech. I'm dating myself a little bit, but I'm a very curious person by nature, and I love learning. And Salesforce never stops providing opportunities for me to learn from so many different angles. I have to always keep up on my game just to keep up, just to keep going. Right? There's always new things coming out, new releases every 3 times a year. What's the latest updates? Things like that. So that very much appeases or keeps me going.
I feel like, to be honest, there's too many updates right now. Like I don't know. So that's interesting for me because right now, whenever I read any kind of like what Salesforce does, like Agent Force, I feel like a lot of this is so much of just marketing, blah blah blah. A lot of this is so much, so much fluff. Um, was it the same 12 years ago?
We are not innovating, or the platform is not innovating, wasn't innovating as fast back then as it is now,
Oh, really?
in my
Interesting.
opinion. Yeah, I mean, Agent Force was announced at Dreamforce what 4 or 5 months ago, and then in
Yeah.
December, Agent Force 2.0 was already released. That's crazy. I mean, yes, Mark Benioff talks about signing up lots of, I guess it was 1,000 Agent Force customers, but
Yeah.
the rapid speed of innovation today is so much quicker, in my opinion.
Interesting. Interesting. Because I'm on the other side. I'm on the other side, and what I kind of feel, is that when I joined Salesforce only 5 years ago, so I'm relatively new. I've never worked with a classic, right? So classic for me seems like it's been 20 years ago.
You're
So I
right.
joined immediately the Lightning, and what I feel like is that in those 5 years, the core platform did not change almost at all. Like I feel like the core platform, we had Apex, and Apex was approximately the same thing as it was 5 years ago.
That's true. I mean, you're seeing a lot of, at least in my opinion, more of the innovation in other areas like declarative development. I mean, we didn't. I don't think we even had flows 5 years ago.
We had, we
We
had, but
did.
they were awful.
Yeah.
They were
Well,
awful.
it was the old iteration of flows, right? Before
Yeah.
the latest one came out. I think it was that
It,
2019, maybe. I'm not sure. But you're right. For the most part, Apex and such, in my opinion, has also basically been the same, which is good in some ways, right?
yeah, yeah. You don't want to like you. I mean, to some extent, when the company becomes like mature company, right? You don't want to change the core product because it works, right? You don't want to change what works already. So I can understand that. So okay, so so it's interesting. What do you see? So Agent Force, do you see Agent Force is like the biggest innovation, the biggest thing?
Um, right now, it's getting all the press and all the headlines for sure, right? I mean, whenever I see a Mark Benioff interview, whether it's a podcast or on CNBC, that's all he talks about now. Uh, I do agree with them that, well, the old system of record with Salesforce, and the core products will always be there in my opinion. But this new Agentforce layer, how we interact and interface with Salesforce, I do, in my opinion, see that's kind of the future. But it'll take time.
Yeah, you know what I'm the most afraid about is like, have you seen one of those OpenAI things with the operator?
Yes, I saw your YouTube video about that earlier this week,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So that's what I'm afraid about because if AI is like smart enough to do all this fancy things like operating whatever, basically the whole promise of Agent Force, right? Because there's the whole idea, Agent Force agents, right? If AI is smart enough to do this, why should it be Salesforce, right? It's not necessarily that Salesforce AI is going to be the winning part there, basically.
Yeah, that's a great question and comment that you said there. Um, there's going to be a lot of solutions that we already are seeing in the market. I mean, we've only had generative AI for what, 2 years now? That's been released in the public, about 2 years, maybe a little bit more. And we've seen so many advancements already, including Agent Force. I'm sorry, OpenAI Operator. What's going to win? What's going to float to the top as the ultimate solution here? Will it be something like Agent Force for Salesforce, or more of a general solution like OpenAI and ChatGPT and Operator and so forth? So it's going to be interesting. With this latest um, release or recently with Operator, it just opens up so much more. To your point. I mean, you were doing some basic Salesforce administration in your video. That was mind blowing. Creating custom objects and fields and interacting with it. That was pretty cool. I mean, in my opinion, the sky's the limit. It wouldn't surprise me if something like ChatGPT or OpenAI does win, or another AI solution like that, but it's more general based versus just Salesforce. Does that make sense? What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is what I am kind of also afraid about because, in my opinion, Salesforce. Oh my god, I have a freaking fly here.
Oh, I can't see it.
You can see it. It's it's
No, I
it's
can't.
good, but it's annoying, because when you have a fly, it feels like it's gonna fly into your whatever nose,
Yeah,
mouth.
right. Funny.
I don't know. No, like the reason why we have flies, we got a tree. My girlfriend got a tree from the streets, and now we have flies from this tree. It was so nice. anyway,
Funny.
anyway, uh, yeah. So about Agent Force, I don't know. I feel like Salesforce, as much as they like to give like the hype and all of this, I haven't like I don't think they're the frontier AI company as much as Mark Benioff want to say it. I feel like they're still kind of behind OpenAI. I think they're a little bit behind all the major like AI labs. And let's see, because the main promise of those AI labs is to automate every single job that we are doing right now. So I don't know. I don't want to be automated right now.
That's a good point. And it's important to have a healthy sense of skepticism as well too, as we continue to enter into this new world. Do you by chance follow what Elements Cloud is doing, like Ian Gott's company with Agentforce?
Not really. I definitely followed a few things, but not everything. What are they doing?
So what they're doing with Agentforce is pretty phenomenal here in the early stages. I mean, they even have an Agentforce chat bot now that allows an employee to be able to go find time for PTO, schedule it, and I believe to even submit it for approval, all through a chat interface. And it determines whether or not you're a UK employee or a US employee, because there's different rules and so forth with vacation time. But apparently it works pretty good. And they have several chatbots. I was reading this morning on LinkedIn how they introduced a new one just in the last couple of days. So it is pretty innovative as you see different companies take on Agentforce. It just depends on the use case, right? We're still identifying what are the best use cases so far. And it is, I consider Ian Gotts and his company kind of one of the leaders in this area. So they're pretty innovative in my opinion. It's pretty neat.
That's interesting. When you say they're doing it as a product or inside of their company?
In their daily internal operations.
Internal operations. Interesting. So because I know them as a consulting company, right? They do consulting.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly.
Well, they offer their main product, right? They don't do traditional consulting. That, as far as I know, they offer a solution that documents your org, that provides process definition, helps catalog and do technical debt, dependency tree mapping when you want to make a change, and it's all infused with AI. Oh, this is one thing that's interesting. They have a new, what do I call it? A new alpha product that you interact with as far as Agentforce. It comes up with your use case of what your Agentforce bot should do, documents it, and it actually gives you steps, if I understand correctly, to how to create it in Salesforce. Talk about automation, it removes a lot of potential manual steps.
Okay, no, that's good. So let's forget about AI. Let's talk a little bit more about the LinkedIn. You recently started going harder on LinkedIn, right, to grow your business.
Oh yeah. So in my opinion, there's multiple channels so with my small boutique consulting practice, it's about generating pipelines, getting new clients, when you need them and so forth. And I'm very entrepreneurial myself to begin with. I enjoy that. It's fun, more than just being a heads down consultant. So yes, I've over the last year or so actually taken on more what you call social selling. Founder led or CEO led, build in public, so to speak, and connecting with your ICP and personas. So yeah, that's been a big focus for me as well.
That's interesting. So before you've been going without any social, without much of a social marketing, basically, right?
Yeah, right. It's interesting. 2-3 years ago, at the height of the COVID boom, I was probably getting 15 to 20 inquiries a week, inbound.
Oh,
just on LinkedIn. I didn't do any social selling at all. And with what I call the correction of the market, it's like, oh wow, I better get better at selling and being more proactive than just sitting back and waiting for everything to come to me. So I've had to do that. Necessity is the mother of all invention, right? So that's why my change has been a little bit. I mean, it's been pretty cool. Like January, for example, Like a few posts generated like 400,000 impressions.
400,000.
Mind blowing, crazy. Just little old me.
That's crazy. 400,000 is super cool.
Yeah, just in
Wow.
30 days.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, well, that's actually super lot. I like
Now you do a
even
lot of that as well too, right, Igor? Social selling
I
and
do a lot.
LinkedIn.
I do a lot. You know, I kind of I'm burning out a little bit of this like LinkedIn game. That's why I'm doing like this podcast, for example. I feel that in LinkedIn you can do that, but there are a couple of problems with LinkedIn. The first one is that people don't really know you if you're just writing stuff. And no matter how many impressions you get, people only interact with the post. They like skimming through the post, so they spend with you maybe 3 seconds, right? And then if you post every couple of days, they maybe spend total like 1 minute with your content in general. And that's what and you see big numbers there. You see like, okay, like millions of impressions per year. And at the end, those they don't matter that much, because what matters, I think, is the actual connection with people,
Right.
not the.
That's true. It's definitely, to your point, a lot more than just impressions, right? Uh, Behind the scenes, I'm constantly trying to network and talk to people. Commenting on their posts, interacting, a lot of DMs as well too. I formed a lot of relationships over the last year. It's been pretty cool as my network has grown. A lot of fellow Salesforce colleagues like yourself, for example, but also connecting with my ICP as well too, which is great. So there's
Yeah,
definitely a
this.
nurturing part to it, right?
Yeah, for sure. So this is like this for me. It's mind blowing that there, like, for example, your business, right? Your boutique, it can work on word of mouth. Like, this is what I'm still. I don't know. For me, it's mind blowing. Like, you said that during COVID, you had a lot of people coming to you just through word of mouth, right? And like, did it stop after the COVID?
Oh,
How did it go?
it it was a dramatic downshift.
Okay.
It seemed like a lot of the digital transformation projects, implementations, and so forth, or expanding the use of Salesforce, just dried up. There's a couple reasons for that, in my opinion. One, money got a lot more expensive to borrow for companies, for enterprises, because interest rates went up. And two, it seemed like there was an over hiring of high tech IT professionals in our industry. Like everybody was flocking to it, and part of that was driven out of a temporary need, but it went oversaturated. So yes, it dropped quite a bit, and I had to get better at marketing and better at selling to be able to drum up those customers. But for a while there, in my opinion, it was as if there was a tumbleweed um, rolling through a ghost town in Western cowboy America at some points. There was nothing going on for weeks or months as far as inquiries. That's how much it dropped, in my opinion. So, but what's been your experience?
Well, I haven't been on the market during COVID. I'm that young.
Yeah, it's funny.
so so I only started my it was 2019. Yeah, so it's been 6 years ago, and that's
Okay.
when I started my developer career, basically. So that's interesting. I kind of, I joined immediately. I feel like I joined the general the business part during crisis, and it never stopped. Like, I feel like
Oh,
what
great.
the last 3-4 years, I don't feel like the economy have, even though we can say that the economy, especially US, have been kind of growing on paper, but I don't feel it. Like, I feel like always people are, oh, inflation, war, all of these things. Always something is happening, and we're always in the last 3 years. We're always in the crisis. Do you
Yeah.
feel the same?
Um, a little bit. At the same time too, I think this is the first major correction for Salesforce ever in 25 years. In fact, the last time I saw this is a generational correction. The last time that I saw this correction in IT in general was during the dot-com bubble and 9/11. Right around 2000 to 2002, the market shifted, the market corrected, and it slowly started to get back its way back up. I think that Salesforce is starting to get better again as far as projects and work and opportunities for full-time employees. I think we're through the worst of it, but it's not going to be like it was in 2021, for example. It'll take time before it goes crazy, in my opinion.
So you don't think that the market's gonna bounce back to the same level?
Slowly, not so boom gangbusters, and that's I get that anecdotal evidence from a lot of different sources as well too. So that's what I'm seeing.
I also see I see the same thing. I think when I started teaching Salesforce development like 2 years ago, I had really great people who were like whatever 5x certified, and they had troubles finding job. But now it's I feel like it got easier. I feel like sometimes people find just like relatively easy the job, especially as developers. So I kind of can feel the same thing.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about your type of work, Igor, teaching Salesforce, especially development, Apex, and LWC, and so forth. In my opinion, your business, you said you haven't really seen a difference. Your business is kind of recession proof. You probably see more growth during downtimes. It's because mainly, in my opinion, Salesforce professionals who don't have any coding experience are looking for ways to differentiate themselves and learn even more and become a developer. So you probably saw a lot of need from that and growth because your business model is a little bit different, which is that's beautiful to have a recession-proof business. You grow while the economy is going down. That's phenomenal.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know, to be honest. I think my business is not as big to be to make any like to recession make any difference because I'm just taking such a small part of the market. So
Yeah,
which is interesting, like you can have no matter how big of a company, you're still gonna take just a small percentage of the whole market, and
right.
yeah,
Your
it's
TAM,
crazy.
your total addressable market. Yeah, you're open for a small pie, right?
Exactly, yeah. That's why, but this is what's good about your boutique style like consultancy, right? You can you don't need to have a big volume. You can only basically find whatever a few clients per year, and you can be already good with this.
Right. I mean, at the same time too, it'd be great as far as future growth to continue to grow the company, where I might have 10 employees at some point, or 25, or even 50, and it'd be great to be able to have someone buy out my consulting practice. That'd be fantastic. That would be a dream at some point. If I have 100 or a couple hundred people, and someday someone bigger wants to buy me out, that'd be a dream.
So you would be up for selling your consultancy if someone offers you, like, let's say you're working on your consultancy for the next 10 years, you're big, you would sell it.
Maybe if it's the right offer, but I do really. I've turned my hobby into a career, first of all, so I enjoy what I do every day. But yeah, at some point it makes sense.
Did you have like clients who came to you and you're like, okay, I know we could work together, but I'm not gonna work with you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's in hindsight, 2020. That's through a bad experience. Like, oh wow, if this ever comes up again, this type of customer and client, I am not going to go down this road because it's so painful, so difficult, so challenging for so many different factors, right? But yeah, I do try to vet different customers. I've even fired customers.
Yes. What are your red flags? What do they need to do to not get hired or get fired?
Well, I don't like being, for example, an order taker.
Hmm.
Like, hey, Scott, we just need you to do this task. Um, and you're just a staff aug model, we're gonna just gonna give you tasks all day long, work out of a queue, and you just fulfill them. I like the strategy part. Hey, why are we doing this? Are you sure that you want this? You're just going to create technical debt. Do we really want it? What are you trying to accomplish? What pain point are you trying to solve in your business? Why does this matter? I enjoy that side of it as well too. So if a company just gives me tasks and orders to do, I probably won't choose them. And I ask those kind of questions up front as I'm working with a prospective client.
This is awesome. This is awesome. I had to fire a client a couple of times too,
Oh yeah.
and it was the most satisfying thing. It was such a relief.
Isn't it true though? It's like, oh my gosh, all my headaches went away, or most of them, right?
Yes, it's crazy, like when you think about this, it's like, yeah, you're kind of leaving the money on the table. You're like, okay, I don't need your, like, yeah, it would be nice to have this income from this client. But then when you fire this client, you're like, oh, phew, yeah, I didn't need that money. I have so much less headache right now.
Right. Here's another red flag in my opinion. So I use a tool called as well that's called Metazoa Snapshot. You ever heard of that?
No, what was that?
What that does is so many different things that it does. It's a great tool for consultants. You can install it, connect it to an org, and analyze it very quickly to come up to speed with the health of the org. It has like 80 different reports it spits out. And if, for example, I use it to assess how much technical debt they have. So technical debt, as far as the developer, that's the number one problem we have to deal with. That's what I've read, and that's my own experience as well too. Existing technical debt. If a customer has a lot of technical debt and they're not interested in cleaning it up, but introducing more technical debt, I'm not interested in that. I just don't want to do that. And if they allow me to connect to the org with Metazoa Snapshot and assess their org, I can get to the answer pretty quick.
I know this. I know what you mean. I know this from my developer career, where you have a client. They say, yeah, we want to have this implementation, and then you're looking at their org and you're like, what the hell? It's gonna take me 100 hours to like make this simple implementation. But if we fix those simple things here that the previous consultancy messed up,
right,
then we can do it in like 50 hours.
That's true. And the thing is too, like you said, it could, with the technical debt and the problems that the existing org has, take hundreds of hours. Then expectations are not being met. The client's upset. Why is this taking so long? You tried to explain to them. It's because your org sucks. Your previous technical projects did not go very well, whether it's consultants introducing technical debt or you're wanting to cut corners because your time to market's quick. It creates a very untenable situation where, like an Apex customization development project, like you said, might take 50 hours normally, and a fresh, clean org with technical debt is less than 5% versus hundreds of hours. It's a good point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I also feel that most orgs, they actually do have some kind of technical debt. Or most businesses, they accumulate. I can feel it. I never understood it. When I was working as a developer, I never understood it. Why do you have so much debt? Like, not only technical, whatever, all the other things. And now I understand you can't do everything in business.
Yeah, right. It's interesting talking about skill sets for 2025. Salesforce Ben had a top 10 skill set to differentiate yourself and niche yourself.
Interesting. What are those skills?
Number
I have no
one
idea.
was technical debt.
Really? Okay.
Cleaning up technical debt, if you can do that well, and I have tools to help me with that could be a major source of business.
How does it even look like, the technical debt? Like what is it usually?
So there's a few things that stand out, like customizations that are forgotten or not used. You can assess that with different reports, like with Metazoa Snapshot or Elements Cloud. Hey, has this Apex class been invoked for a while? No, it's not. It's been sitting on the shelf for a long time, or it's never been used. Too many fields, unused fields, custom fields is another sign. Just not being used. Another thing as well too, overly complex flows, processes, page layouts that look like garbage. I had one. I came onto a project. This is a customer that I fired. At the time, I believe with their licensing, they are allowed to have 500 custom fields on standard objects. When I came in, they had 495 custom fields on the opportunity object. And one of the first things they asked me to do, okay, we have a new field. Okay, order taker, go ahead and add this new field. They're going to be at 496. And I said, whoa, hold on here. Do you know what the user experience is like? Trying to access all these fields on a page? This is awful experience. And so I had tried to have a conversation with them, and they said, we don't care. We just want to do it. I'm like, you're creating a lot of problems for your, down the road and so forth. And you wonder why your adoption rates are not very good in Salesforce. This is one of the reasons why. So page layouts, too many fields, too many required fields, bad data being put into the fields as well too. Just it goes on and on. But those are some of the top 3 or 2 different areas to look at, and you can assess that with different tools.
What I wanted to talk about, we touched already quite a bit on the Agentforce and all of these things. Are there any other things that what's super interesting for me is basically the change of the ecosystem in those 12 years. This is because I feel like I've been around not for a very long time to see a lot of different changes. For me, Salesforce ecosystem, except of going through like small things, stayed pretty much the same. So it's interesting for me to see like what do you think? What are the changes that that were good? What were the changes that were bad? What's your opinion on the like flows, all of this? Like what are your favorite changes, not favorite changes? What do you think about all this?
So here's a hot topic, a controversy.
Oh yeah, I love them. I love those.
So
yes,
I like the power of flows, but with any tool, you've got to know your use cases and the times to when to use a particular tool. Flow, the innovation with flows is fantastic, but just like we're talking about technical debt, where's the source code control? Where's your iterative approach? Where's your GitHub or Git to be able to do that? Yeah, you can save the XML, but it's almost in some ways too much power for the average administrator or accidental administrator or even someone from the business to create a flow that can cause problems. I mean, it's great, it's innovative, but it's got to be a tool used in the right hands. So introducing more best practices around development, best practices with flow should be incorporated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that it's a good and a bad, right? It's good parts, and there's also bad parts as well too.
Yeah, it's crazy. What I like, my biggest critique on Salesforce right now is that how much non-developer oriented they are. So they really don't care about developers. Exactly. They put so much. I mean, flows are awesome. Like right now, flows are so good. You can do so many things with flows. And I'm excited for that. Like I'm excited to have, like this no-code tool. But again, where's all this version control? It's just crazy. We don't even have proper testing for flows.
Right. Testing's another area. excellent point. You're right. All these things you do or can't or test coverage
Yeah.
or testing period, it's very manual.
It's crazy that we are required to have 75% test coverage for Apex and 0 for flows.
Well, not
Like,
only that,
why?
you can develop your flow in production.
Exactly.
There's no sandbox. There's no deployment. There's nothing like that at all. It's like it's the wild, wild west in some ways.
Yes, yes, and this is crazy because a lot of people so basically there are two different people who are coming into the Salesforce ecosystem. The first type, they're already developers and they just learn Salesforce.
Right.
And another part is that they are in Salesforce already. They somehow like just start working Salesforce as admins, consultants, and then they learn Salesforce development on top of it sometimes, right? So the crazy part is that Salesforce is still a software, and you still, if you want to engineer good systems, then you still need to have a software engineering approach and all the software engineering best practices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you don't even have the tools to do that. Like with the flows, you cannot implement proper testing,
Right.
proper version control, and all of that.
Right. Regression testing that gets forgotten a lot, right? As well too, yeah, it certainly is pretty interesting. Another thing is, as far as, in my opinion, in order to be a really good technical professional or a consultant, know what Apex can do for you. Know the limits of flow. Yeah, flow can do a lot, but at the same time too, what if you have a ton of records? Flow is probably not going to be, as far as speed and chunking through all your records, it's probably not your best choice. For example, the other day I just wrote some anonymous Apex that a business took and accidentally uploaded a list of leads where they should have been existing accounts and new contacts. So it's just adding context to an existing account. That's what it is. Whether they accidentally did it the other way, and I was asked, "Hey Scott, can you clean this up?" And I thought, like, well, maybe I could do it with Flow, but I said, these are hundreds of records. Apex is going to have the speed to do it. First of all, you can batch some the updates up and so forth. All the best practices about Apex versus Flow. It just made sense to write a couple hundred lines of anonymous Apex script and run it from the developer console, and boom, it converted the leads. It found the existing accounts and it put those contacts right underneath those accounts. It wouldn't make sense to do that with the Flow, in my opinion. For that,
Absolutely.
you got to know your use cases, right?
What I see is that a lot of people, a lot of senior Salesforce admins, when they learn Apex, they also become better at flows and all
Yes.
this because
it's part of the whole toolkit that you can bring to an engagement, right?
Yeah, not speaking about like when, for example, in your case, right, you want to like run a company and you want to build it up, you do need to understand like quite a bit of parts of Salesforce, right?
Right, for sure, right? You absolutely do.
How did you actually end up in Salesforce? You've been working in IT for a long time. Why Salesforce?
So, back in the day, this is dating myself. Like I said, I have about 25 years in the IT industry. I worked with legacy ERP solutions that like PeopleSoft or Oracle that were developed for the large part back in the 1990s. And one of the these big financial and human resource ERP solutions, they're kind of like at the central hub of a business, kind of like Salesforce is today. But at the same time too, they were developed without integrations in mind. Like for example, if you wanted to expose an API endpoint, it was a Herculean effort just to expose a field or or a database table or a process to be invoked within PeopleSoft. And I actually got involved with MuleSoft first and loved trying to integrate that with the enterprise. I was working for a large employer that had 1,000 different applications in their enterprise, and they needed to connect a lot of them with PeopleSoft. So we got MuleSoft to do that. And then this is kind of fun. One day, my employer, my company I was working at, was thinking about getting some Salesforce licensing for various reasons, for customer interaction and so forth, or sales and things of that whatnot. And I attended a one-day workshop where we sat down, about 30 of us from the IT department, and sat down and built out different canned solutions, kind of like Trailhead we have today a little bit. And I was blown away, absolutely blown away. You could take a concept and very quickly in a couple hours deliver a working application versus in declarative admin type of work. That blew my mind away. That actually worked. But on top of that, what really got me was whenever you create a new custom object or a custom field, boom, automatically exposed as a REST API endpoint. That was so difficult with ERP solutions like PeopleSoft, that immediately, this is 12 years ago, you could just out of the box access it through a REST web service connecting to Salesforce and be able to interact with it. So I thought, wow, there's actually solutions out there that actually do this already. And so it blew my mind. And I very quickly pivoted my whole career and started doing Salesforce. And I've never looked back. It's been a very satisfying pivot and change. So it's from an integration API standpoint. That's the reason why I switched.
That's crazy. And it's been only 12, 13 years ago where you had to struggle with just exposing a field as API.
Right. Mind blowing. You could do that. I mean, it would take hours upon hours to be able to do the same thing in a legacy ERP solution. But not with Salesforce.
Crazy. And they were still cloud systems, right? The old ERP.
Oh, no, they were premise-based, on-prem.
So they're like local, basically, right? They're running on own servers.
Yep, own servers. If you want to patch or do an update, it was a giant project in and of itself. One thing that's cool about Salesforce that also piqued my interest, it just does updates. You don't have to even worry about it necessarily. Yeah, you got to check to make sure no customizations are affected, do some testing. But these 3 times a year updates are just done. That's less things you have to do with your IT staff.
So you basically had, let's say you're working for a company and this company is a big company, it has a ERP system. It actually had dedicated servers for this system. Crazy.
And teams of 20 to 30 people to support it. Administrators, application administrators, server OS administrators, developers, business analysts. The investment was huge. Yes, it does core functions for the company, but the architecture is so old and so legacy-like that it took that type of investment just to be able to make a run. And that's insane.
Crazy. This is one, I think in Germany, there's this big company called SAP. SAP.
Yeah.
SAP in English. That's how they got big, basically, with those type of servers, right?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a legacy. I don't follow the ERP market anymore, but SAP was that same model as well too, on-prem, at least back in the day.
Yeah, I have an interesting theory that is a little bit controversial, but so basically I feel like a lot of technology, it goes a little bit in the waves, like clothing. Sometimes it comes back. like the what people wear, and I kind of think that we're gonna have the same to some extent in a different form, but to some comeback of servers and stuff that you own, because I feel that people, and especially like a younger generation, maybe not especially younger, I'm actually taking my words back. So just in general, people are fed up with not owning stuff and having so many subscriptions to everything, and
True.
basically living and renting everything, like
Right.
for example Salesforce. They can, in theory, they can mess up your implementations, and that happens all the time, even though
Hmm.
they try to maintain, right? They produce a new, right now they're working on the new Lightning Cosmos team, whatever they
Hmm.
have there. They produce something, it breaks, well then that's your problem, your investment to fix this thing.
Hmm.
And like I feel like right now there's been a rise of a software, like for example, I'm gonna use, instead of Slack where you pay per month per user,
Hmm.
I'm gonna try to find another software where you just pay once and you own it, and then you
Right.
can take a dedicated server, host it there, and run it there.
Right.
So that's my hot
Hmm.
take. The server is gonna take a small comeback, but not in that form as it was before. What do you think?
Yeah, that's an interesting take. Um, I can see what you're saying. There's some pushback, right, with the SaaS pricing model and licenses, and you're just renting the software. You're right. It does add up. Um, the one thing I would counter with that is is who's going to update the server, who's going to patch the software. Those costs are built into your licensing, where you don't have to worry about it, and you tend to have less IT staff when you have more of a cloud-based solution, in my opinion. But for special cases, it makes sense to go back to that old model. I can see that. It also depends too. Like for example, your classification of your data. How sensitive is it?
Hmm.
Does it make sense to have it to host in your local data center? Just depends, right?
That's true.
Yeah, it makes
And you
sense.
also need you also need more developers, right? It's like it's
Hmm.
easy when you're a developer to say, "Oh, I'm just gonna rent a dedicated server and upload there." But then if you have a person who doesn't have any programming experience, then it's kind of harder.
Right, right. It was kind of funny. I have a funny story about that. About what you're talking about. So somebody I know, my stepson, who just finished with his computer science degree, great guy, way more intelligent than I ever could think of. He doesn't like Salesforce. He doesn't like SaaS. He doesn't like the cloud. In fact, he said, "Oh, I could probably reproduce or recreate Salesforce with probably about 10 hours of custom development." Hey, that's great, but here's some food for thought. Have you considered this? Have you considered the platform? Have you considered being able to scale? Have you considered the security model? Um, the metadata layer in Salesforce. Have you considered all that? Oh yeah. So you quickly, if you're even at one user for Salesforce, $100 to $200 a month, depending on which version you get, he couldn't reproduce what Salesforce does as a platform without hundreds or thousands of hours, in my opinion, of custom development work. So you have to weigh the two, right? I mean, yeah, you can go with spreadsheets and things of that nature, but at the same time, too, you're limited with what you can do. So he like, oh yeah, the big picture. That makes a lot of sense. Maybe I shouldn't consider developing something from the ground up. So there's different approaches, right? So that's what I would say as far as from a enterprise architecture perspective.
That's true. I agree, and that's why it's interesting to hear from those like older days, with those dedicated service and ERP systems. Um, because I also feel Salesforce is not a good example, but there are a lot of different companies who I feel like they should not be subscriptions. Like Slack, for example. Are you using Slack?
Yeah, I use Slack all the time.
Yeah, Slack. Awesome thing. No changes in 10 years
That's
or like
true.
in 5 years, right?
Right.
So should they be subscription? I don't know.
So
Because like
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good point. Right, you're making good points. I don't pay for Slack. I use the free
me
version,
neither. Me neither.
and it I think you have 10 different apps you can install on it, or integration apps, and it still is the free tier. I use Slack to integrate to communicate with customers as well too. It's free, so it just depends. If I'm a larger company, yeah, you have to pay for it, right? But that's a good point. Slack probably should be free, kind of like Teams. Microsoft Teams was, if you buy the Office suite, right? They kind of just threw it in.
Yep.
So maybe
Yep.
Salesforce should just throw in Slack.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Why not? That would
Yeah.
be nice. That would be nice. Um, is there anything I missed to ask you? Some kind of conversation direction that I didn't go and you were still to discuss?
Um, that pretty much covers it, I think. I mean, we touched a lot of different topics, right? Um, Nothing else. I mean, I could talk for days about what I do and what we do in this ecosystem. It's just, I enjoy the work so much. It's a lot of fun. The technology is fantastic. Like I said, the ecosystem's deep and vast. Um, I think for what we talked about today, I think we covered a lot. So we're good.